People have got any questions, but otherwise.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Ismay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report on, I guess the first one would be the RCB forum, which I also went to and have done, I think, in my whole career as a councillor before I was a councillor, when I was chair of our local town committee, and I've always found them wonderful. I thought this one was probably a little bit duller than some of them have been, but the lady that presented the last of the day, I was very impressed with her AI structure that they're developing around building control, and I think that's got a lot of potential, and I think it's going to be something great if we can take that on board. And that I went and saw her afterwards and said, "Well, you've really made me day." It was probably just the presentation that should have been right at the start. So, and also I'd like to acknowledge the Hindmarsh Shire has been the original body that formed this group, and also acknowledge Councillor Gersh. He mentioned the Hindmarsh Shire, but he was part of that back then and was chair for 10 years, Councillor Gersh, which is a pretty amazing achievement, and they all received a standing ovation from 98% of the crowd. Right. The only other thing I wanted to acknowledge was the Rainbow Town Committee meeting. And the last one I went to, we had Alira Roberts did some presentation, some stuff she's doing on promotion and she's putting together some stuff on a computer and stuff, and everyone was just really blown away by how good a job she's doing. I think she's going to be a real great asset to our town committee. Everyone was very impressed with what she put forward on the night, so it was really good that she's come on board. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ismay. Councillor Albrecht.
With Redmere Island?
No problem. Thank you. There was a bit of a problem with the audio there, but hopefully a lot of our messages got through. Item 7's correspondence, and there's a recommendation there.
I move that council notes the attached correspondence.
Thanks, Councillor Gersh. Seconded, Councillor Ismay. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 8, Assembly of Councillor Records.
Now I move that council notes the Assembly of Council Records as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Ismay. A second, Councillor Albrecht. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 9, planning permits. We've got the 9.1 is application for a planning permit for 2 sheds associated with a cattle feedlot on Western Highway Nil. I'll pass to Ram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report recommends the council approve the planning permit for PA 1861/2024 for the development of 2 sheds associated with the use of land for cattle feedlot on the 70 Western Highway Nil. The planning application was received on the 12th of June 2024 for development of 2 sheds on subject land. The sheds, fairly big sheds, one is 166 metres by 36 metres wide. The second one is 31.6 metres by 45 metres wide. Because the development is on the farm zone, it triggered the building permit. It had no restricted covenant or any heritage, cultural heritage requirement, so it ticked all the boxes there. The land is about 200 to 400 metres away from the Western Highway and 3.5 kilometres towards the east of Nil in there. The application received went through the referral process and the advertising process to seek the public submission, and received 1 submission or 1 objection, which had the concerns about the water issues, the effluent overflow into the Nil Swamp, and desire for operation to be relocated further from the township. The application was then assessed against our planning scheme, and it tend to fit all of the guidelines. So in terms of the use, there is no the land management constraint because they already have the existing use of the land, and hence we could not impose any other strain onto the development to relocate the site somewhere else, because this application was just related to the structures on the land. In terms of water and effluent, they have their own requirement to meet with the general environmental duties under the EPA requirement. So EPA puts the control against those anyways. Yeah, so basically there was the submission, but while assessing against the planning scheme and all the other requirement, it met the criteria, and hence there is the recommendation to grant the planning permit.
Thanks, Ram. A good report. Is there any questions from councillors on that report? Yes, councillor Gersh. Yeah, if there's no questions, yep. Sure.
I'll move that the council issues a notice of decision to grant a permit in relation to planning application PA 1861-2022 for the development of 2 sheds associated with the use of land for a cattle feedlot on the subject land known as 7165 Western Highway Nil 3418, Lot 2, Plan of Subdivision 532754D, Parish of Belruton, subject to the following conditions 1 to 5.
Thanks, councillor Gersh. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ismay, would you like to speak to your motion, councillor?
Over the years, I have been out on the letter that came in on the said gentleman's property on many occasions with our local laws officer and health officer. If you look at the lay of the land, that the water runs off the feedlot, goes down through a channel, goes into a dam of a private neighbour, and then it goes into the Nil Swamp and the Nil Lake. It always has been a concern, just the natural fall of the land and the effluent, etc. That has been tidied up in past years. If we get an easterly wind, it's probably a bit unpleasant at that end of the town, but it's something I guess we live with. But when I looked at this, and I thought of the water that would be going, and having a shed is going to make the water run off even better. It's going to come off a shed, it's going to come off a roof, and it will be clean water. If you have rain on an open feedlot, it's naturally yuck. It really is awful. But this to me would be an improvement in the smell and the runoff for that reason, that we're looking at predominantly clean water. So that sort of swayed me a bit on this because it's a terrific industry. It's been there a long time, and for them to continue developing, it's fantastic. But there is a concern, and I appreciate the neighbours' concern in the letter, but I think this covers it. And as I say, I think with the roof, it will be a lot cleaner water run off than what it would have been with just coming on the land itself.
That's a good point. Councillor Ismay, would you like to speak? Is there any speakers against? If not, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour, against, that is carried. Item 10.1's on-site wastewater management plan, and I'll pass to Ram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report seeks the adoption of on-site wastewater management plan 24-29. following the community consultation between 25th of July to 8th of August in accordance with the council's community engagement policy. The current on-site wastewater management plan was last adopted in 2006 and outdated, and hence the officers went out to secure some funding from DECA and to develop to renew the plan, basically. It is the planning and management document that focuses on the council's understanding of cumulative risk that on-site wastewater management system presents to our municipality. The document also clearly identifies the roles and responsibilities of various parties involved in the management. So the document was first presented to the council on 29th of May at the council briefing session to get the initial feedback. The feedback was then incorporated into the draft and presented to the council for endorsement on the 24th of July. And put out to the community for feedback. At the close of the submission time, we received two feedbacks. One suggested there's no further change required. Another submission mentioned that the Rainbow and Japara townships are not included in the plan and should be. Our response is, this was not included because there was limited development activity in those two towns. But what we will do is, they're very deemed as very low risk. But moving on, we will get those two townships assessed with on the risk, and then include the risk assessment as the appendix to this plan later on. So basically, a recommendation is there to adopt the plan.
Thanks, Ram. Any questions to the report on the waste management? If not, there's a recommendation for councillors. Councillor Nelson, thank you.
Yeah, I'll move that council adopts the on-site wastewater management plan 2024 to 2029.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Albrecht, thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Nelson?
Just to say that, as the report says, this the plan will be available on the council's website, and it's a good resource for local plumbers to use when they have any work scheduled.
Thanks, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Albrecht, anything further? No, if not, thank you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. I'll just quickly point out a few of these things coming through today. Plans and strategies have already come before council, gone to the community for for their feedback, and are coming back to be put to bed today. Just taking care of business on a few of these. 10.2 asset disposal sale. This is the old senior citizens building in Victoria Street, Dimboola. I'll pass to Ram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report aims to inform council of the process to protect the olive tree located at the rear of Dimboola Senior Citizens Centre, and subsequently seeks the approval from council to commence the process of disposal of the asset through the sale of property. Again, this report has been, this matter has been presented to council numerous times before, started in March 2022, when council started the discussion with Senior Cits to re-establish the group, and there was no support received. In August 2023, the council resolved to advertise its intention to sell or dispose the asset and call for submission. The submissions were later heard in October 2023. The officers and councillors also attended the community meeting on 20th of February to seek the feedback on the matter. In Dimboola, the community feedback, general consensus was to number one, to protect the tree, and number two, to dispose the building, and invest any of the fund in Dimboola from the sale of this asset. In the situation, if the asset doesn't get sold, the community wanted to convert this as the community garden location. The significant olive tree is located in the rear of the block, and the general consensus of the public was to protect this tree due to the historical value. So the officers have received the guidance from the planners to protect the tree by the use of Section 173 agreement. If the property is to be sold, Section 173 agreement is like a binding contract. It gets recorded against the title, so it protects the longevity of the tree. Moving on. While this happens, officers are still investigating their options to register this tree into the heritage listing or the significant tree register. So that will progress until then. We'll have protection through Section 173 agreement. Happy to take any questions. There are recommendations there.
Any questions to Ram on the old senior six building? If not, there's a recommendation. Councillor Nelson, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I'll move that council number 1 approves the disposal of 41 Victoria Street, Dimboola. 2, authorises the CEO to undertake the sale process and sign all necessary documents for sale of land and the building located at 41 Victoria Street, Dimboola. 3, engages the solicitor to draft the Section 173 agreement to be included in the sale process. And number 4, authorises the CEO to sign the Section 173 agreement and use the common seal on behalf of council to protect the olive tree.
Thanks, Councillor Nelson. If I get a second, Councillor Ismay, thank you. Would you like to speak to motion, Councillor Nelson?
Yes, I think this is a great outcome for the community. This is exactly what the community wanted, although there wasn't any interest in keeping the building. But I think there was interest in having the building sold to see what might happen there. I think there's plenty of opportunities for a business or something to happen there. But saving the tree was the important thing for the community, and this certainly does do that. So I think it's a great outcome, as well as disposing of an asset that's past its useful life for council. And, you know, we have so many assets that we really do not have the money to maintain them.
Well said. Councillor Ismay, anything further?
Needs to be said, sorry. As the regular committee, Councillor Nelson said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The whole process from February through to now has been really good. Involved the community and a good outcome. Okay, all those in favour, against, that is carried. Item 10.3, agreement under Section 173 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 regarding Lee Street Nil, and I pass to Ram.
The conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Gersh. General.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report recommends that the council authorises the CEO to sign Section 173 agreement under the common seal of Hindmarsh Shire Council. The agreement is proposed in accordance with the condition of the approved planning permit, which was approved in October 2022. The purpose of the Section 173 agreement is to ensure that the developer develops the land in accordance with the planning permit. So so they either need to have Section 173 agreement or need to ensure that they they give us the occupancy permit of the development, completion of the development. The completion of development might take a long time before we receive that. So that's why having Section 173 agreement is appropriate. Again, as discussed before, it's a legally binding document. It's in the title, and we can enforce it. Moving on, so the recommendation is there, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ram. Any questions to that report? If not, I'll ask for Councillor Ismay.
Well, I have the Virgin Council authorise the use of the common seal in compliance with the Hindmarsh Shire Council Government's local law in the execution of the Section 173 agreement for 77 to 79 Lay Street, Nil 3418, in accordance with condition 4 of PA 1781-2022-A1.
Thanks, Councillor Ismay. We've got a second, Councillor Albrecht. Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Ismay? Councillor Albrecht. If not, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Thanks, Councillor. Item 10.4 is the TAC local government grant funding contribution about a raised pedestrian crossing in McPherson Street, Nil.
Mayor Island, I have a conflict of interest for item 10.4 as I work at the local health service there.
Thank you, Councillor Albrecht.
Mr. Mayor, I have a general conflict of interest in 10.4 as my partner works for Western Health Service.
Thank you, Petra.
Sorry, mine was the general too.
All right.
Ask
Thank
the
you.
Ram for a
Thank
report.
you.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Mayor. This report seeks to refer the amount of 62,684 to 25-26 annual budget process as a co-contribution amount to the TAC local government grant program for raised pedestrian crossing on McPherson Street, Nil, should our application be successful. TAC recently released their grant program, which provides the opportunity to their councils to improve the safety in their local communities. It has to be primarily focused on the safety of the pedestrian or cyclist, and matched with the funding on one-to-one basis, and also the limit of $100,000. Excluding GST, so we could have a project worth up to $200,000 or more, as long as we only get $100,000 from TAC and the rest from the council or the other sources. So funding opportunity opened on the 17th of June and closed on 24th of July. There was pretty tight turnaround and the closing time, and the council reporting deadline did not match, and that's why we are seeking the approval now after we've submitted the application. If council decides to not proceed ahead with the proposal, the officers will go and withdraw the application, and we'll go from there. The project is the raised pedestrian crossing, which is also called the Wombat Crossing, at McPherson Street, Nil, just west of McDonald Street intersection. There is a high volume of parked cars and pedestrians during the daylight hours due to the hospital, the Avonlea Aged Care Facility, and lots of visitors and patients to the hospital. We had to engage the specialist consultants to design and estimate the project, and the cost came up at $125,365 for this project. and it had to be matched on one-to-one basis. If we are successful with the project, we'll have to complete by 30 June 2026. So basically we can do it into the next financial year so that we can budget it into the next financial year, that 50% contribution. But it will definitely, if we're successful, it will attract that 50% from TAC. Yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ron. Yes, councillor Good.
I don't query, now you've got a costing. That saves a whole lot of money for a bit of a race for across the road.
Yep. So it's a bit of asphalt. It's a asphalt work, and it also needs to consider the curb and channel construction on the approach and a drainage. The raised pedestrian crossings generally present a tricky situation with the drainage works. The draft design has been provided as an attachment for your information, but the estimates are based on the realistic figure.
Well, no engineers to me, but it seems an awful lot of money. So,
yeah.
Wombat crossings don't come cheap, councillor Good. Is there any further questions to Ram's report? If not, there's a recommendation there. Yes, councillor Nelson, thank you.
I'm just wondering, is this location for this crossing being prioritised as being the one that people request the most for?
Yeah, so based on the location were chosen based on the request, based on the pedestrian volumes, based on the the amount, the significance of the location. We have quite a few other programs where we're trying to get those raised pedestrian crossings for other locations like school crossings and those kind of things. Yeah, and you know, this was this location had the demand, matched the criteria, and was easy to design as well. So it's fit all the criteria required.
If there's no further questions.
One more.
Yep.
Now, we usually have money set aside for to go towards grant-funded projects. We don't have any in the budget for the following year, or is there a reason why it gets referred to the next budget?
Yeah, so our contribution towards grant funding is $50,000 in a year. You will recall we have allocated a small portion of that towards the application that we submitted for the cabins here at Nil. And so there's not enough remaining in that funding to cover the $65,000 contribution.
And just to add to Monica's comment, through you, Mr. Mayor, the announcement of this program will come towards the end of this financial year, so we'll be ready for construction if we're successful into the next year.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the council supports the TAC local government grant application for construction of a raised pedestrian crossing on McPherson Street, Nil, and refers 62,684 to the 25-26 annual budget process for council's co-contribution to the project should the application be successful.
Thanks, councillor Gersh. If I got a second, councillor Ismay, thank you. Do you want to add further, councillor Gersh?
Yeah, just one comment. I'd still query the price. That'll be down the track. We'll we're only up to 50% of it, but in answer to Councillor Nelson's, it is a very, very busy little area there with Avonlea and the back of the doctors, and yeah, the traffic is just non-stop. You can never park your car there, and so it is a very, very heavy pedestrian area, and yeah, it's another one of those where you've mainly got elderly people coming and going to Avonlea, the back of the hospital with the emergency ward. So there certainly would be a demand there for some sort of higher pedestrian crossing and just walking across the road. So yeah.
Good. Councillor Ismay, anything further? If not, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour, against, that is carried. Thanks, Ram, for that report. Oh, sorry, got a few. Come back. Then the ones with the next conflict again. Okay. Thank you. 10.5 is a request to name an unnamed road and change of road name for Railway Dam Road. I'll pass to Ram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report outlines the request for proposal to name an unnamed road to Railway Dam Road in Dopa, and seeks council's approval to proceed ahead with formally naming the road to and proceed ahead with the gazette process. So this report was presented to the council in the last council meeting in July for endorsement before we went out to the community to seek the community feedback. It originally started in original request for renaming came in December 2022, and then again brought in our last farmer consultation, and we followed up. The geographic names have set up the specific guidelines which we need to meet in terms of what we need to do for naming the roads. The requirements are listed in the table provided there. The submission of the proposal was sought via council's Have Say page, as well as the other media for the advertising period of 28 days between 25th of July to 23 of August. A separate letter was sent to BTLC for their feedback as part of requirement. BGLC notified to council on 20th of August that following their discussion at the board meeting, they declined the opportunity to provide the feedback. We received one more submission from Diaper Whole Committee following their discussion at the AGM. All in attendance at the meeting were in agreement with the proposal to rename the road to Railway Dam Road. Recommendation there. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Ram on the Railway Dam Road? If not, there's a recommendation. Yes, Councillor Aubrey.
The motion that council approves renaming named road between Nil Diaper Road and Rogers Road to Railway Dam Road, and authorises the CEO to undertake the required process of the geographic naming guidelines to gazette the road name.
Thanks, Councillor Aubrey. A seconder, Councillor Nelson. Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Nelson?
Just to say that naming the road will make it extremely clear for the emergency services, so that's a great outcome.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Nelson. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. 10.6 proposed changes to the allocation of Elgin Street curb and channel capital works funding, and I'll pass to Ram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm on the run. This report seeks council approval to change the capital works budget allocation of $130,280 for Elgin Street Nil curb and channel works to curb and channel section renewal to be utilised throughout the Shire. So this is the original project from 2018-19 financial year, where the laneway behind the Shire office between Davis Avenue and Young Street was proposed for curb and channel and seal works. There was some works done, like concreting of 20-metre section, and the unsealed road in that laneway is servicing the low volume of traffic, which is working fine at the moment, and hence is a low priority to complete the project. Recent condition assessment of curb and channel assets has identified significant amount of defects into the curb and channel network, which needs to be rectified with the priority. And hence it is recommended that we reallocate this fund to repair various sections of the failed curb and channel sections throughout the Shire. This amount will allow us to fund about 300 metres of curb and channel repaired in different locations, not in locations. We'll have different locations, and the works will be delivered by in-house concrete team. The recommendation is there for council's consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So any questions to that report?
Mayor, I'll move the council approves the reallocation of the capital works budget, 130,280 for Elgin Street Nil Curb and Channel Project, committed in 2018-19 financial year to curb and channel section renewal program Shire-wide.
Thanks, councillor Gersh. Seconder, councillor Ismay. Thank you. Would you like to speak to your?
Mr. Mayor, it's a shame, this one, because as can be seen, 2018, it's 5-6 years old. And nearly when this building was put here, it was on the plans. It never got done, and then it's just been handballed every year. But when you drive around our towns, and I can speak mainly from Nil, that we do have a lot of curb and channel that is in very, very poor condition. And I think at this stage, I'd certainly support having some of that repaired rather than do this one.
Yeah, councillor Ismay, would you like to add further? Yeah, so in a nutshell, we're taking a low priority laneway, we're taking the funding out of that, putting it to more important projects throughout the Shire for curb and channel for those. We get good information, the public don't always understand what we're sort of going on about, I think.
The area to me is the line at the back of the Shire offices and the bowling green and the post office. That's the Elgin line. And we do have a concrete base from the footpath to the back of the Shire office, which makes it much better for staff because a lot of foot traffic comes in there, but that's neat and tidy. But I'd still like to see it some way down the track that we were able to complete this, but I think at the moment it's priorities upgrading some of our other facilities.
Okay, thanks, councillor. So all those in favour, against, that is carried. Thank you. 10.7 governance update, councillor complaints handling policy and procedure. I'll pass to Mrs. Rebel.
Thank you, Mayor. This report presents the councillor complaints policy and procedure for adoption. At the council meeting on the 24th of July, the draft policy and procedure was endorsed for community consultation. The policy and procedure were available for the period from the 25th of July until the 15th of August. There were 7 people that viewed the document during the public consultation period. However, there were no formal submissions received. So there is a recommendation for council to adopt policy and procedure.
Thanks, Mrs. Rebel. Any questions on that policy? If not, there's a recommendation. Councillor Nelson, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move that council adopts the councillor complaints handling policy and procedure.
Thanks. Second, councillor Albrecht, thank you. Anything further to add on councillor Albrecht? If not, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour, against, that is carried. Item 10.8, Hindmarsh Shire Council Community Action Grants, round 1. I'll pass to Mrs. Rebel.
Can we please declare conflict of interest?
Yes, certainly can. I was going for my water.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that in accordance with section 67 of the Local Government Act of 2020, the council resolves that the community action grants matter into separate parts, considering all the applications under the community action grants round 1 program, excluding the application from the Nil and District Sporting Club, referring the review and funding allocation for the Nil and District Sporting Club for round 1 to the Community Action Grants Program 2024 to the Chief Executive Officer.
Okay, I've got a mover of a motion there. Have I got a seconder? Councillor Ismay. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. So that leaves us, Mrs. Rebel, could you explain where that leaves us regarding this report, or would you go?
Yes, so the report now I will read through the report, but any reference to Nil and District Sporting Club will now be removed. So round one of the community action grants was advertised for applications. And at the time of closing on the 9th of August, there were 10 applications received, 4 for community assistance, 2 for event sponsorship, and 4 for small equipment. Applicants for the we received an application from Nil Train Station, the group that are maintaining the surrounds. They're seeking funding of $500 to assist with the beautification works on the ground. The group isn't a formal organisation, but we feel that due to the valuable work that they're undertaking at the train station, that we recommend they allocate the allocation of $500,000, but it be subject to the applicant providing evidence and consent from the land owner manager to undertake the project, and receiving notification of an organisation that will auspice the works and the group.
Just to clarify, you said $500.
$500. Sorry, yes.
Very generous.
$500. The Nil CWA branch is seeking $1,000 to assist with the construction of a new fence on the north side of the building. The Rainbow Learning Group, a neighbourhood house, are seeking funding of $505.86 to assist with updating and printing 1,200 rainbow mural brochures. And the Rainbow Progress Association are seeking funding of $1,000 to assist with the Rainbow 2050 project, which aims to engage Rainbow community in a series of activities aimed at understanding and shaping the future of their town over the coming decades. Under event sponsorship, we've received 2 applications. The Japara AMP Society is seeking $500 towards their annual agricultural show, and the Oasis Rainbow is seeking $500 towards a movie night in Rainbow. For small equipment, the Rainbow Archive and Historical Society is seeking funding of $1,000 towards the purchase of a Ricoh ScanSnap SV6000 scanner, so that they can scan old editions of local newspapers as their historical documents. The Nil AMP Society is seeking funding of $1,000 towards the purchase of safety vests for committee members to wear during the annual show and other events at the showgrounds. And the Combined Probus Club of Nil is seeking $1,000 for the purchase of a laptop computer. So I'll just read out the amended recommendation. So that based on eligibility and assessment criteria, Council approves the following funding applications. Community assistance, a grant of $500 to Nil Train Station based on an auspice organisation endorsed. $1,000 to Nil Twilight branch of the CWA, a grant of $505.86 to Rainbow Learning Group and Neighbourhood House, a grant of $1,000 to Rainbow Progress Association. Under event sponsorship, a grant of $500 to the Japara Agricultural and Pastoral Society, a grant of $500 to Rainbow Oasis. Under small equipment, a grant of $1,000 to Rainbow Archive and Historical Society, a grant of $997.50 to Nil AMP Society, and a grant of $1,000 to the Combined Probus Club of Nil, with total funding allocated $7,003.36.
We can move that on. We've got a mover for that motion. Was there any
I
questions?
do have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
On item 2, the CWA, the north side of the fence, the big lane, is a neighbour. We would not be responsible for half the fence, would we not? As sure, because the big drains, yeah, the neighbour of that fence.
I might take that question on notice. We'll look into that.
Won't make any difference in that, but if normally with a fence that both parties put in, share the costs and so on.
Any further questions to the community grant? If not, there's a recommendation there. Yes, councillor Nelson.
Mayor Ireland, I'll move that based on the eligibility and assessment criteria, council approves the following funding allocations. Community assistance, number 1, a grant of $500 to the Nil train station based on an auspice organisation endorsement. Number 2, a grant of $1,000 to Nil Twilight Branch, CWA of Victoria. Number 3, a grant of $505.86 to Rainbow Learning Group and Neighbourhood House. Number 4, a grant of $1,000 to the Rainbow Progress Association Incorporated. Event sponsorship. Number 1, a grant of $500 to Jakarta Agricultural and Pastoral Society Incorporated. Number 2, a grant of $500 to the Rainbow Oasis. Small equipment. Number 2, a grant of $1,000 to Rainbow Archive and Historical Society. Number 3, a grant of $997.50 to Nil A&P Society Incorporated. Number 4, a grant of $1,000 to the Combined Probus Club of Nil. Total recommended funding allocated $7,003.36.
Thanks, councillor Nelson. Have I got a second, councillor Orbick? Thank you. Would you like to speak to that, councillor Nelson?
Oh, well, I'm just wondering why all the clubs in Dimboola haven't put in an application. I do encourage you to look at this. I mean, every group has a little project that they'd like to do, or, I mean, this funding is here to help support all our volunteer groups. So please make use of it.
Thanks, councillor Nelson. Councillor Orbick, would you like to add?
No.
If not, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour, against? That is carried. Congratulations, everybody. 10.9, Hindmarsh Shire Council Regional Community Events Grants. I'll pass to Petra.
I declare a conflict as previously notified.
General, thank you, councillor Nelson.
The general conflict in the item because my daughter is involved in one of the events.
Split, we might split.
Leaving or not leaving?
We'll deal with councillor.
With this report.
Yep.
Declaring conflict of interest. Councillor.
Do you want to deal with councillor Nelson's conflict and move that? And then we'll have, and then we'll deal. All those. Yep. And then we'll deal with the remaining. Yes.
Okay, so Petra, you're still delivering the report?
I will need a resolution regarding a split motion.
Would somebody like to move that we split the motion into two?
So I wasn't sure what councillor Nelson, she didn't declare which part of it though.
Yeah.
So do we have to, sorry, if I move a motion that the Steampunk Festival application be dealt with in a separate motion to the Rainbow Rise Events Committee and Piggery Lane players.
Moved by councillor Orbick. Could you second that, councillor?
Second.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, pass to Petra.
Okay.
Councillor
So I will
Ridley.
speak. Oh.
All those in favour that we split the motion, against, that is carried.
So I'll speak to the report and exclude Steampunk for now. So this report seeks approval to provide funding through the 24-25.
To speak to Steampunk.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Include.
Thank you.
To save the conflict.
Yeah, sorry.
So that's all you're going to speak to.
Thank you. Regional community events grants program to eligible organisations and groups. We received 3 applications totaling $19,000. So I would note in the report there is an error. We refer to Dimboola Arts Inc. It is supposed to be Dimboola Progress Association in relation to Steampunk. They have requested $7,500 to fund circus performers who will provide entertainment to the 2025 Steampunk Festival. Given the scope of the event and the request for assistance from council in terms of traffic management and coordination, The officer recommendation is to provide $6,000 cash and $1,500 reserved for in-kind contributions from council to support the event, with any unexpended balance of in-kind to be provided after the event's completion date.
Thanks, councillor. Thanks, Petra. Is there any questions regarding that funding?
Mayor Ireland, I'm happy to move a motion that based on the eligibility and assessment criteria, council award the Dimboola Progress Association $7,500 with cash $6,000, in kind $1,500 to support the 2025 steampunk event, with the balance of any unexpended in-kind contribution to be provided to the Dimboola Progress Association on completion of the event.
Thanks, councillor Roberts. If I've got a second, councillor Gersh, thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion? Councillor Gersh. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Okay. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. So I'll now speak to Rainbow Risers Events Association and Piggery Lane Players. So this is still seeking endorsement for grants through the Regional Community Events Grant Program. So I would note that the 24-25 program implemented a tiered system to reflect the visitation levels of the events and subsequent value to visitor and economy. The variance in the total amount requested for Rainbow Risers and Piggery Lane, as contained within the recommendation, is reflective of information provided regarding attendee estimates. This is discussed in the report. Rainbow Risers Events Association have applied for $7,500 to support the delivery of the 2025 ARB 480 Desert Enduro. Documentation from the event in 2023 noted that up to 1,000 attendees were expected, and evidence has not been provided to this point that indicates planning for 1,500. As a result, it is the officer's recommendation that this be considered as a Tier 2 event, eligible for $4,000 in funding, which would be split into $2,000 cash and $2,000 in kind. You'll also note there is a complex recommendation because there are several pieces of documentation that have not been provided, and the allocation may need to be dependent on the provision of all of that documentation. Similarly, Piggery Lane Players seeks $4,000 to assist with set designs, costumes, marketing, promotion and travel costs. Piggery Lane Productions attract visiting family and friends, has strong community engagement and support, and has displayed recent growth and potential for continued growth. Based on this, it is the officer's recommendation that this event be considered a Tier 1 event, eligible for $2,000 in funding, and be allocated $1,500 cash and $500 in kind to reflect the NMCC fees. Again, they have not provided one part of the documentation, and so this is included as a condition on the recommendation. Happy to take questions.
Any questions on the other two funding allocations to Petra? If not, there's a recommendation there. Is Councillor Gersh?
Mr. Mayor, I've just missed the somewhere for the arts. The Piggery Lane Players.
It's currently
Item
listed at-
3.
You'll just need to alter. it to
Item
be number
3.
Yeah.
Rather than E, put 3.
So, Mr. Mayor, I've moved it based on the eligibility and assessment criteria. Council was following funding allocations. Rainbow Rise event $4,000. And help me out. What was the figure there? The Piggery Lane, sorry, I missed.
Number
E.
Down to E.
Recommend allocation $2,000. Motion?
Subject, Rainbow Risers, subject to the conditions.
Yes, subject to the conditions listed, yes. No, that's fine, Mr. Mayor, I'll just like.
And Piggery Lane, items 3 to $2,000, given $1,500 cash and $500 in kind. We've got a seconder for that. Councillor Nelson, thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion at all, Councillor Nelson? All those in favour? against, that is carried, and congratulations to those groups. Thanks, councillor Gersh. Councillor Aubrey, item 10.10, a Hindmarsh Shire Council Business Assistance Grants, round one.
Island, I've declared a general conflict in this one. It's one of the business addresses, it's adjacent to us.
Thank you, councillor Nelson. And I'll pass to Petra for the report.
Thank you. So this report seeks approval from council to provide funding through round one of the Business Assistance Grants 24-25 program. 10 applications were received for funding totaling around $17,000. Business assistance grants help offset costs associated with expanding or establishing a business in Hindmarsh Shire to ensure the ongoing sustainability and viability of our local economy. Council has allocated $20,000 towards the 24-25 Business Assistance Grants program, and it is split into two categories: business development of $2,000 and streetscapes of grants up to $3,000. Under the first category, we have Big Bertha, seeking funding for fridges for their coffee and food van, Kat Clark for outfitting a new kitchen and dining area for her catering business, Partners in Ag for costs associated with conference attendance. Under the streetscapes category, we have Knorr Asian Grocery for a new business sign, Hayden's Cafe for a front facade upgrade and outdoor dining area, Lots of Laughter coffee van for purchase of a gazebo, Loana for a new sign, Nil Thai Massage for a new sign, Rainbow Sweets for new signage and A-frame, and Tobo Gallery for the establishment of a sculpture garden. Applications have been assessed against the criteria with only minor changes to reflect the correct allocation against the total project cost. Happy to take questions.
Any questions to Petra?
A very small question. Why we've knocked off $2 off the Bertha's coffee bag?
Because the total project cost was $2,997. So to have the correct council allocation as a proportion of the total project cost, it's that $2. Got to be accurate.
Thanks, Petra. Any further questions on the grants? If not, there's a recommendation for councillors.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to move the council based on the eligibility and assessment criteria. Approves the following successful round one business assistance grants. One, business development, Big Bertha coffee van, $1,998. Cat Clark catering, $2,000. Partners in Ag, $1,679, and two streetscapes. Can your Asian grocery store $631.40, Hayden's Cafe $3,000, Lots of Laughter coffee van $599.35, Moana $2,170, Nil Thai Massage $1,346, Rainbow Sweets $1,400, and Turbo Gallery $3,000.
Thanks, councillor Ismay. Have I got a seconder? Councillor Albrecht, thank you. Would you like to add to your motion, councillor Ismay?
Great, people have applied for this funding, and I don't know all of them, but some there that I do know, and they all do it. Sure, all of the ones here all do it. I've heard most of them do a very good job, and it's great to be able to assist them with their projects.
Thanks, councillor Ismay. Councillor Albrecht, fitting. All right, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour, against, that is carried. And congratulations to all those businesses. Thanks, councillor Nelson. 10.11 risk management framework, risk management policy and risk appetite and tolerance statement. I'll pass to Petra.
Thank you. So this report presents the risk management framework, risk management policy and risk appetite and tolerance statement recommended for council adoption. The three documents presented in this report were presented to Council on 24th of July 2024 and endorsed through a period of public consultation from 25th of July to 15th of August in accordance with Council's community engagement policy. No formal submissions regarding these documents were received and no alterations have been made. Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Petra. Any questions? That policy's been out to the community? If not, there's a recommendation. Thanks, councillor Albrecht.
Mayor, I'm happy to move a motion that council adopts the risk management policy, the risk management framework and the risk appetite and tolerance statement.
Thank you, councillor. Is there a second to councillor Gersh? Thank you. Would you like to add further, councillor Gersh? If not, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. 10.12 is the Fair Access Policy Action Plan. I'll pass to Petra.
Thank you. So this report presents the Fair Access Policy Action Plan recommended for adoption following the completed period of community engagement from 25th of July to 15th of August 2024. The draft Fair Access Policy Action Plan was endorsed by Council on the 24th of July 2024 for this period of consultation. So the action plan complements the fair access components of Council's already adopted Sports and Rec Reserve allocation, use and fair access policy that was adopted in June and reflects the fair access policy roadmap introduced by the Office for Women and Sport in Recreation in 2022. The Fair Access Policy Action Plan was made available on Council's website and also available for discussion at the sporting club consultations that have occurred over the past month. No submissions were received and no changes have been made.
Thanks, Petra. Any questions? If not, there's a recommendation.
Mayor Ireland, I'm happy to move that council adopts the Fair Access Policy Action Plan.
Thank you, councillor Albrecht. A second. Yes, councillor Nelson. Would you like to speak? Councillor Nelson, all those in favour? Against? That is carried. 10.13 is the draft climate adaptation strategy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Petra.
So this report presents the climate adaptation strategy and recommends Council adopt the strategy. The document presents a refresh of Council's climate adaptation strategy from 2012 by summarising recent and long-term climate trends and the accepted outlook for future climatic changes. It presents practical strategies and actions for which Council can make a meaningful contribution in offsetting potential adverse impacts from climate change and severe climate events. As with the other documents, this was presented to Council on 24th of July 2024 and endorsed for a period of community engagement from 25th of July to 15th of August. The report details the outcome of the engagement and resultant changes to the strategy. So we held drop-in sessions that enabled discussion, requested feedback directly from key stakeholders and groups, and made the consultation available on Have Your Say Hindmarsh for formal submissions. There was a strong level of engagement from the community, and you'll see that several meaningful changes have been made to the document as a result that have been detailed in the report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Petra. Any questions on that policy? If not, there's a recommendation. Councillor Ismay.
Mayor, I'll move council adopts the climate adaptation strategy 2024 to 2032.
Councillor Ismay, a seconder. Councillor Albrecht, thank you. Did you want to speak to your motion? Councillor Albrecht, seconding. If not, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. 10.14 is the S5 delegation for the Chief Executive Officer. And I'll pass to Petra.
Thank you. This report presents an amended instrument of delegation from Council to the Chief Executive Officer, with changes made in consideration of the requirements of our election period policy as contained within our governance rules. During the election period from 17th of September 2024 to 26th of October 2024, the decisions of Council are limited under the Act and our election period policy. Amendments to the S5 instrument will enable the CEO to approve expenditure already committed under contracts or expenditure necessary for the effective and compliant delivery of essential council projects and services. The intention is that the revised delegation would apply until the instatement of a new council following the election period, whereby all council delegations must be reviewed.
Thank you, Petra. Any questions on that report? If not, there's a recommendation, councillors.
Mayor, I'll move that in the exercise of the power conferred by S11 1B of the Local Government Act 2020, the Act, Hindmarsh Shire Council resolves that one, there be delegated to the person holding the position or acting in or performing the duties of Chief Executive Officer, the powers, duties and functions set out in the attached instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. 2, that the instrument comes into force immediately upon the resolution being made and is to be signed by Council's Chief Executive Officer as man. 3, on coming into force of the instrument, all previous delegations to the Chief Executive Officer are revoked. And 4, the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed, and the powers set out in the instruments must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of council that it may from time to time adopt.
Thanks, councillor Ismay. Is there a second, councillor Gersh? Thank you. Did you want to speak to the motion, councillor Ismay?
I got to read that out. No one else wanted to read it.
I thought there was a strategic pause. Councillor Gersh? No, if not, all those in favour, against, that is carried. Item 11. Council committees, 11.1 advisory committees. We have the Jeparit Township Advisory Committee, Neil Township Advisory Committee, Hindmarsh Pride Advisory Committee, all general meetings, Rainbow Township Advisory Committee, general meeting. There's a recommendation.
Now I move that council notes the minutes of the following advisory committees. Jeparit Township meeting held on 8th July 2024. Neil Township meeting held on 16th July 2024, and notes Heather Duffy's resignation from Neil Town Committee. 3, Hindmarsh Pride meeting held on 19th July 24. It should be 23, Mr. Mayor. 4, Rainbow Township meeting held on 29th July 2024. And 5, notes the Audit and Risk Committee Chair's report.
Thank you, councillor Gersh. Have I got a second? Councillor Nelson, thank you. Would you like to speak to those? Councillor Nelson, would you like to speak?
Just to thank all the volunteers that have been involved in those committees for all the work they do.
Thank you. So all those in favour, against, that is carried. 11.2 are community asset committees. We've got the Rainbow Civic Centre general meeting, Wimmera Pioneer Museum Community Asset Committee general meeting on the 18th of June 24 and general meeting on the 17th of July 24. Urunga Homestead Community Asset, the general meeting on 27th of June 24 and general meeting on the 25th of July 24 and general meeting on an annual general meeting on the 25th of July 24. There's a recommendation there. Thank you.
Mayor Ireland, if there's no questions, happy to move a motion that council notes the minutes of the Rainbow Civic Centre Community Asset Committee meeting held on the 17th of July 2024, notes the minutes of the Wimmera Pioneer Museum Asset Committee meetings held on the 18th of June 2024 and the 17th of July 2024, notes the minutes of the Urunga Homestead Community Asset Committee meeting held on the 27th of June 2024 and on the 25th of July 2024, an annual general meeting held on the 25th of July 2024, and endorses the following office bearers for the Urunga Homestead Community Asset Committee: Chairperson Jenny Solly, Secretary Peter Solly, Treasurer Peter Solly. Notes the Rainbow Civic Community Asset Committee Financial Report 23-24, attachment 35. Notes the Wimmera Pioneer Museum Community Asset Committee Financial Report 23-24, attachment 36. And notes the Urunga Homestead Community Asset Committee Financial Report 23-24, attachment 37.
Thanks, councillor Ulrich. We've got a seconder. Councillor Ismay, thank you. Did you want to speak to your motion? Councillor Ismay, would you like to add?
Only that the Urunga meeting would be very easily able to get a quorum.
Less one's away. Yeah. Okay. All those in favour of that motion, against, that is carried. Items 12, late report. 12.1, the Hindmarsh Planning Scheme Amendment post exhibition. And I'll pass it around.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report seeks council's consideration of submission to Planning Scheme Amendment C21 Hindmarsh Heritage Study following the public exhibition of the amendment and decision of council in whether to adopt the amendment with or without the changes as a result of public exhibition. In 31st of May 2023, council resolved to endorse the Hindmarsh Heritage Study and requested the authorisation and exhibition of Planning Scheme Amendment C21 Hindmarsh Heritage Study. The amendment proposes to implement the recommendation of the Hindmarsh Heritage Assessment Study. On 4th of June 2024, Minister of Planning granted the authorisation to proceed ahead with the amendment, and the amendment was subsequently put into exhibition from 19th of July to 19th of August 2024. And since the closing time was after the closing time of the report submission deadline, and hence it is presented as a late report here. The submission was sought via various channels, advertised in the paper, in your Have Your Say page. It was also placed in the Government Gazette on the 19th of July. At the end of the closing time, there was one submission received from Nil A&P Society. Submission seeks to change the amendment document, specifically seeking to exclude the proposed extension of Heritage Overlay 37 agricultural showgrounds to include the poultry pavilion. The basis of objection raised by the A&P Society include the cheap construction of the building at the time, which has resulted to the damage to its integrity over the time due to the nature of its construction, lack of ongoing maintenance in the building, which and the extent of work required to stabilise the pavilion, the white ant damage in the structure, the lack of finances with the A&P Society to obtain the insurance and to repair the structure. And the use of pavilion, it's only used once a year, and due to avian influenza, it will not be open in 2024. There's few options following this submission to the council. One is to proceed ahead with the submission, but that will require the referring the submission to the independent planning panel, which will incur the cost of $20,000, somewhere around there. Since the concern was raised by A&P Society, council also has the option to remove the heritage overlay in that particular building and deal with it later on, and move ahead with the amendment without excluding this building. And because there is no other submissions for any other building, we can proceed ahead with the amendment, which will be the easy process. That's pretty much it. I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Any questions to Ram on the heritage report?
I do.
Yes.
So noting the A&P Society's feedback, I was unsure as to why the recommendation still talks about resolving to further consider heritage controls, because to me the recommendation that's placed suggests that the council still feels there is significant heritage, but the A&P is saying, you know, this is an unsafe building. They might tomorrow be asked to, you know, pull it down. And then by kind of having that there, I just wasn't sure on the purpose of that. And I guess if it is something that council and obviously the heritage advisor says, you know, there was value in that, is it something that the council could, rather than having that wording, if someone was to move a motion, but we could actually have it more around consulting with the Nil community as to their views on the heritage value of that particular building, because the AMP committee members obviously feel strongly, and I would suggest they're the right people too, but in saying that there might be other parties in the community who have a different point of view. And I just was uncomfortable and wondering whether there was a reason.
So the reason behind the recommendation was then it will allow us to further investigate that in future. Like the Heritage Study definitely recommended that building has some significant heritage value, and that's why it came into this amendment process. But because ANP Society has raised the valid concern, and Heritage Advisor has noted that while it has got some heritage value, but if we can't use it for the purpose it's designed, what's the point of having the heritage overlay in there? And then because even if the structure can't meet the OHS requirement, then it will even impose the ongoing liability to that group. Having that condition there in the resolution will allow us to further consult with the ANP Society and our heritage advisor and take any of the actions needed in future.
And I guess I was just, I'm uncomfortable with the wording because it says it implies like that we were going to look at other heritage controls rather than actually taking that step back and having a and I guess that's why I was wondering if that was possible to consider having a community consultation on the community's perception of the heritage value prior to determining should heritage controls be further explored. Because at the moment, I feel like it reads like we're going to think about doing it a different way, but we're still going to control the ANP Society's ability to manage that facility, that shed. And I guess I'm just wondering how that sits when they've clearly said like they can't even insure it now because of the state of it, that they're about termite control. So if they knew there was something that still was of concern, I guess, from a heritage, I just wouldn't like to see them being restricted if they use that. But I appreciate council's role is to make sure that anything that's of heritage value is looked at it holistically. And so
My understanding is, and I wasn't involved in the heritage study phase, the community consultation has been undertaken during the study phase. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my belief. But happy.
Like to that point, if the AMP Society, who are the ones who own it, they're the committee, and they say it's got no value and we don't think it's worth saving, then I guess the question is, well, who's asking for it to be and why?
That's based on the advice we received from the Heritage Advisor. I'm happy for councillors to propose alternative wording in there, but anything any further amendment will come in front of the council anyway. Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask a question to other councillors as to, the thoughts? Because I guess I'm hearing you saying, Ram, you don't think going back to community consultation is the right way to progress that forward. I guess I was just wondering whether that was a way.
Council directs us to go there, we'll go there.
Because it would then either provide wider community feedback in Nil, which either supports the ANP Society's position, I guess that's what I thought, rather than because for public consultation, I understand that this was publicly available to the community, but it was directly sent to people whose properties were impacted. So there may be other people, I don't know, the Nil Historical Society or other people that have interests that may not have had it brought to their attention this was out for public consultation. So I guess before saying that it has no value, but I guess, I said, that the implication is we're still going to try and put a control over it rather than listening to the AMP Society's advice, who seem to have a very old building, which to their point, they only use once a year, can't use it this year to do with bird flu. So it wouldn't even, it would have been used once in a sort of a 2-year period by the time we get to the end of 2024.
Yeah.
And that they need to be looking at from their notes how they're going to make it safe.
So that 5B.5B, where it says the interim heritage control, they decide to demolish the whole building, that is if community sees it has got the heritage value and the A&P Society is deciding to demolish it, and in that condition, if council needs to intervene, we can put the interim heritage control in there to protect that from being demolished.
And I guess that further adds to the point, though, is that by moving the motion or the recommendation as it's worded, suggesting that that is the process, because it is giving you the authorization to do that, should, like you said, you hear, but without any other further consultation to see whether it's valuable or not, because to going straight from a proposed demolition to now getting an interim heritage control.
Yeah, at the moment, the recommendation does not allows us, well, it does not directs us to go out for the community consultation, but I'm happy for you to add it there, and then we'll go out again, just for that component.
Yes, because obviously the rest of it is very good and it's wonderful, and we're just talking about the one objection and the one removal. I'm happy to move a motion if my...
Yeah, well, there's no motion being moved if you want to.
I'm happy to move a motion, and bear with me, please, as I get the wording right in that section.
No further questions on the report?
Well, it depends whether we want to debate it without a motion, Mr. Chairman, I guess. I'd be happy to make a comment, but, you know, we probably have a bit of free for all without a motion, that's all.
What, do you have another question for Al?
Well, if I'm going to phrase the questions now, yeah. Look, the pavilion is very old. I mean, it's been there as long as I can remember. They're not using it. And the AMP, they probably have the biggest committee in the Hindmarsh Shire. They always fill their committee. They've got 20 plus people. They're very diverse group of people on that committee. And I'd be guided by them. And I think all we're doing is prolonging something, because I don't believe you can do anything with the building. It's just, it's had. And if the AMP feel as though they don't want to do anything with it and don't want to put it under heritage, I don't think going out to public, to have a public meeting on it. I mean, the AMP, the owners of it, they're they're the masters of the area up there, I guess. And to go to a public consultation, I'm not sure where out in the public would see it any different. So I just don't think we need to be up for any money and prolong it. The AMP committee have made their decision, and you know, I mean, we can play around with words, and if Councillor Aubrey can come up with a motion, I'm happy to second it. But you know, as long as it doesn't complicate the thing anymore.
I think it's only reputation protecting, and that the Councillor Ulbricht's really looking to add. So I don't see it's harmful. It's not going to force us to the $20,000 stage or anything like that with the...
To your point, Councillor Gersh, I think the outcome will be exactly as you just described.
Very happy to second it if you put the right words in the Councillor.
Okay, I'll try. That Councillor, pursuant to section 23(1)(a) of the Planning Environment Act 1987, resolves to change the amendment C21 hint to exclude a poultry pavilion in the heritage overlay as requested by the Nil and AMP Society due to issues raised in the discussion section of this report. Adopts amendment C21 Hind as exhibited, subject to the change in resolution 1 being made to the amendment. Submit adopted amendment C21 Hind together with the prescribed information to the Minister for Planning for approval in accordance with section 31 of the Planning and Environmental Act 1987. Is it appropriate to jump to authorise the Director of Infrastructure Services to make minor editorial and administrative changes to the amendment documents if required? B, make application to the Minister for an interim heritage control in response to any proposed demolition of a building that is identified within the heritage study, and seek further community consultation to with sharing the Nil AMP Society's views in consultation with them to confirm wider community support for there being, can I say, wider community support, yeah, for being no heritage control on this building. Sorry, that was a bit wordy.
I got a seconder for that motion. Thanks, Councillor Nelson. Or would you like to speak to your motion?
Only just to summarise it up, I think, like Councillor Gersh said, we respect the Nil AMP Society's position. I'm sure that the community consultation, the wider community consultation, but to touch on your point, Mayor Island, it does mean that other people can see that council has been notified of the heritage significance of the building. We're respecting the Nil AMP Society's ownership of the building, and we're wanting to make sure that all parties in the community have had their opportunity to feed into this discussion, as we are likely, if the community consultation proceeded, that there was no heritage protection for that particular building.
And there may be a lot of ex-committee members in the community that have got a passion for it. Councillor Nelson, would you like to add further? If not, all those in favour, against, that is carried. Item 13, notices of motion. Had a few. Item 14, other business. Anybody have any other business they'd like to mention? Not. Item 15, confidential reports, and there's a recommendation there.
Mayor Island, I'm happy to move a motion that the meeting be closed in accordance with section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider reports that contain confidential information as defined by section 3 of the Local Government Act 2020 and or part 4 of the Freedom of Information Act 1982. Rainbow Female Friendly Change Rooms and Facilities Project. This council report considers confidential information as defined by section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 as it contains council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, insofar as it pertains to contractual matters and or part 4 of the Freedom of Information Act 1982. 15.2 Contract Award 242501 Provision of Town Planning and Associated Services. This council report considers confidential information as defined by section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 as it contains council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, insofar as it pertains to contractual matters and or part 4 of the Freedom of Information Act 1982. 15.3 Contract Award 2425-02 Swimming Pool Upgrades. This council report considers confidential information as defined by section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 as it contains council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, insofar as it pertains to contractual matters and or part 4 of the Freedom of Information Act 1982. 15.4 CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee. This council report considers confidential information as defined by section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 and it contains personal information, being information which if released would result in an unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs insofar as it pertains to the CEO employment matters and or part 4 of the Freedom of Information Act 1982. And 16.1 Variation to Contract 2324-11 Nil Aerodrome Taxiway Upgrade Works. This council report considers confidential information as defined by section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 as it contains council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, insofar as it pertains to contractual matters and or part 4 of the Freedom of Information Act 1982.
Thank you, Councillor.
And I love that someone put switched out the Roman numerals in 15.4 to put the digit 4 instead.
Councillor Ulrich, if I got a seconder, Councillor Nelson, thank you. All those in favour, against, that is carried. Welcome back. Should there be no further business, I'd like to declare the August meeting of Hindmarsh Shire Council closed. Thank you and good evening. Thank you, Mary Ann.